The Tarai Madhesh region concluded the Chaat Festival today by offering prayers to the rising sun. The Chaat celebrations this year had been largely subdued due to the ongoing coronavirus crisis, as local administrations had imposed prohibitions on marsh worshipping in riverbeds and holy shrines. Good morning, I'm Sarah Sapsanama and these are the headlines of the hour. Tensions escalate between Chairman duo of the ruling Nepal Communist Party. The joint consensus report expected by the party highly unlikely. Over 1,900 new cases of COVID-19 confirmed the past 24 hours, taking the national tally near 217,000. Death toll nears 1,300 with 22 more deaths. American pharmaceutical Pfizer applies to U.S. health regulators for emergency use authorization of its COVID-19 vaccine, a major step for pandemic-wary Americans. And CAN withdraws controversy for choosing an Indian company to organize Nepal Premier League. A review on the decision expected. Hindu devotees in the Tarai Madhesh region concluded the Chaat Festival by worshipping the rising sun early this morning. The four-day festival is dedicated to the sun, considered in Hindu religion as the god of energy and life force. Devotees perform the rituals for 4 days, praying for well-being, prosperity and progress in their own and the lives of their loved ones. The festival is also believed to promote coordination, inclusion and sanctity in the community. Devotees conclude the 4-day-long fast on the final day by offering prayers to the rising sun in the river banks. However, this year, the celebrations remained largely subdued amid the risk of the spread of coronavirus. Devotees carried out the rituals and worshipped the setting sun from their respective residences yesterday. Moving on, Prime Minister and Chairman of the ruling Nepal Communist Party, KP Sharma Oli, who postponed the Secretariat meeting by 10 days, has begun preparations to submit a document refuting the allegations made by Executive Chairman Pushback against him. The Oli-led faction has been preparing a list of issues in Premier Oli's defense against allegations made by Dahal. The report, sources say, will also include the demand for the resignation of Executive Chairman Dahal. Several leaders from the Oli faction have called for a joint consensus document between the chairman duo, which experts say is highly unlikely. It has been understood that the Oli faction is preparing to come up with an aggressive strategy for a decisive clash instead of making any deals with the disgruntled faction. The party's executive chairman Dahal had submitted a political report on 13th this month, calling on Premier Oli's failure to run the government and the party and patronizing corruption. The Secretariat meeting scheduled for 28th of November is to discuss on the report. Sources say Premier Oli has said he will resign from both the posts in case the allegations against him turn out to be true. The Oli camp faction is also preparing to incorporate issues of the Dahal camp, including the Maoist combatant camp scam and relations with controversial businessmen. Premier Oli, who has been taking advantage by managing the factions within the party despite being in the minority, has been finding it increasingly difficult to deal with the current circumstances. Political analysts have said the Prime Minister can neither escape from the Standing Committee and Central Committee meetings nor garner the majority in his favour. Meanwhile, Executive Chairman of the ruling Nepal Communist Party, Pushback has said that the party would not split at the face of the ongoing disputes and power conflict within the party.
In a meeting with leaders close to Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli, held at the party's headquarters in Thumbarai Friday afternoon, Executive Chairman Dahal assured that the party would not split. During the meeting, General Secretary Bishnu Paudel and Deputy Leader of the Parliamentary Party, Subhash Nembang, urged Executive Chairman Dahal to stop the party from splitting. In response, Executive Chairman Dahal stated that his political report would not split the party and the message should be conveyed to Premier Oli. Both the leaders, however, said that the situation was still grave. General Secretary Paudel informed that discussions were held at the meeting regarding the party dispute, political reports submitted at the Secretariat Committee, and finding a way out to resolve the dispute. Likewise, Deputy Prime Minister and Secretariat member Ishwar Pokhrel also held consultations on Friday with close associates to the Prime Minister and mulled over strategies to pave way to resolve the ongoing inter-party conflict. Leaders also informed that homework was being done on the possibility of a joint report, while Prime Minister Oli was also preparing a separate political report in response to the document submitted to the Secretariat by Executive Chairman Dahal. The Secretariat meeting of the ruling party has been postponed until 28th of November amid the inter-party conflict between the top brass leaders.
1,945 new cases of COVID-19 were confirmed in the country in the past 24 hours, taking the total number of cases to 216,965. The COVID-19 death toll in the country has climbed to 1,298, with 22 more deaths reported. The total number of tests have reached 1.64 million, with 10,340 swab samples tested in the past 24 hours. According to the Health Ministry, the Federal Capital reported 1,107 positive cases, with 862 new infections reported in Kathmandu district, 174 in Lalitpur and 71 in Bhaktapur. Likewise, 5,364 individuals registered full recovery in the past 24 hours, taking the national recovery tally to 191,002, and the recovery rate has climbed to 88%. There are over 24,000 active cases in the country at the moment, with 5,651 corona patients in isolation centres, 19,014 in home isolation and 753 in various quarantine centres. The Health Ministry has informed that 63 patients are receiving treatment in ventilators, while 403 are in ICUs across different hospitals in the country. The Agriculture Inputs Company has cancelled the second contract with controversial Shailung Enterprises for failing to supply chemical fertilizers as per their agreement. The company has cancelled the agreement with Shailung Enterprises under the direction of Agriculture Minister Ghanshyam Posal and has moved forward with the process of seizing the deposit. Shailung Enterprises had signed a contract with the Agriculture Inputs Company on 2nd of July this year to procure 30,000 tons of urea at the rate of $311 per ton. According to the agreement, Shailung Enterprises should have supplied the fertilizers by 7th of this month. Failing to meet the deadline, the enterprise asked for an extension to supply the fertilizers. However, the ministry directed the Agriculture Inputs Company to scrap the agreement, accusing Shailung Enterprises for failing to supply and playing a role in creating acute shortage of fertilizers during peak demand. The process of seizing 56 million rupees as deposit of the enterprise has been forwarded under the direction of the ministry. The government had blacklisted Shailung Enterprises for failing in procuring fertilizers and had seized the deposit about 2.5 months back. Shailung Enterprises received the contract in the last week of May earlier this year to procure and supply 25,000 tons of fertilizers by 5th of September, however had failed to procure the fertilizers by the deadline. The third contract of Shailung Enterprises for importing 25,000 tons of urea is also coming to an end on 29th of this month, however has not yet indicated of supply. It may be recalled that Director of Shailung Enterprises Sharada Prasad Adhikari had rented his house in Kumaltal, Lalitpur to Executive Chairman of the ruling Nepal Communist Party Pushback Dahal. Moving on, it has been 14 years since the comprehensive peace agreement was signed between the then Maoist rebels and the government. However, in more than a decade time, the victims of the insurgents-era crimes have yet to receive justice. The comprehensive peace agreement was signed between the then Prime Minister Girija Prasad Koirala-led government and the then Pushback Dahal-led Maoist rebels on this day in the year 2006. However, the government has been reluctant to investigate and prosecute the perpetrators of serious human rights violations from both the state and the rebel groups during the 10-year-long insurgency period. The main tasks of the peace agreement signed by the then Prime Minister Koirala and the then Maoist Chairman Dahal was to promulgate the new constitution through the Constituent Assembly, restructure the state, integrate Maoist combatants and provide immediate justice to the victims of conflict-related crimes. However, due to the lack of coordination from the political leaderships and the security forces, the process of justice had been disrupted. Even as the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and the Commission of Inquiry into Disappearance have been set up for transitional justice, they are still mired in structural and procedural problems. The National Human Rights Commission, the United Nations, several national and international human rights organizations, and organizations of conflict victims have expressed their deep concern regarding the issue. The comprehensive peace agreement was signed between the government and the then Maoist rebels in 2006 to search for the disappeared people and to settle the remaining tasks within 60 days. It has been 14 years since the agreement was signed, however, the issues remain intact. In this context, in our Public Voice segment, we had asked the locals in Gorkha why hasn't the peace process concluded as of yet. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
Public Voice.
वामपन्थीको सरकार भन्दा पनि आफ्नै पार्टीभित्र जुन लुछाचुनी देखिएको छ यो त छँदैछ। त्यसमाथि पनि यो सत्य निरूपण तथा बेपत्ता छानबिन आयोग जुन गठन भएको थियो यो एउटा ढिलो गठन हुनु एउटा गठन भएपछि पनि त्यसले काम नगर्नु।
सरकार पक्षमा जुन छानबिन गरी निकाल्ने 60 दिनभित्रमा जुन उहाँहरूको कुरा थियो त्यो हुँदै गर्दाखेरिमा चाहिँ त्यो भयो, तर पछि सरकारमा आइसकेपछि उहाँहरूले यो टपिकलाई भन्दा अर्को विभिन्न टपिकहरूलाई चाहिँ ध्यानमा राख्नु भयो र यो बेपत्ता आयोग छानबिन चाहिँ यतिकै कोल्याप्स पार्नेमा लाग्नु भयो।
आयोगको पनि जुन कमाइ खाने भाडा मात्रै बनेको छ त्यसले कुनै पनि काम गरेको हामीले देखिरहेको छैनौँ।
शान्ति सम्झौता गरेको आज 14 वर्ष बितिसक्दा पनि यो राज्यको निरीहताको कारणले गर्दा बेपत्ता परिवारको अमुक स्थिति जुन खालले जस्ताको तस्तै छ।
सत्तामा ध्यान केन्द्रित गरे र खिचातानी भयो, राजनीतिक खिचातानीले गर्दा निमुखा बेपत्ता परिवारको बारेमा कुनै पनि चासो नदिएको हुनाले सार्वजनिक गर्न सकेनन्।
राजनीतिक इच्छा शक्तिको कमी नै हो भन्ने मलाई लाग्छ।
Time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
The question is, what's your take on giving responsibility to operate the Nepal Premier League to an Indian company? Your options are A, compulsion due to lack of experience, B, exhibiting incompetency, and C, dependent on others. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Time now for the sports update. The Nepal Premier League has been drawn into controversy after an Indian company was given the responsibility of operating the league. After Cricket Association of Nepal signed the initial stage agreement with the Indian company and presented the contract at Wednesday's general meeting, many members criticized the move. The International Cricket Council has brought the concept of organizing Premier Leagues so that its member nations can make additional income. Cricket Association of Nepal Dream Project Nepal Premier League has been drawn into controversy seen before the season kicking off. CAN was criticized after giving the responsibility of organizing the Nepal Premier League to the Indian company 73 Brothers, according to which CAN will receive a certain amount. There is a huge craze for cricket in Nepal and it is not difficult to search for sponsors. CAN's main target is to develop cricket in the country and gather money for it by organizing a Premier League. However, the stakeholders say that CAN officials are of the mentality of earning money without putting any effort. CAN meanwhile says that the agreement made with the Indian company is not final yet. The organization says that the contract was presented at the general meeting so that discussions could be held on it, and if the agreement with the Indian company is not in the benefit of Nepalese cricket, it can also be scrapped. That's all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Have a great day ahead.